Hello everyone, so I was finally able to play SIFU. I was very much anticipating this game after seeing the trailers a little later last year, and of course when the game came out, watching some gameplay of it, I thought it looked absolutely awesome. I have a Mortal Kombat background when it comes to gaming. I love hack and slash games, so this looked right up my alley. I was really excited for it. I heard it was very, very difficult, and I can definitely say it is up there in terms of its difficulty. But this is an action beat 'em up video game developed by French studio Slow Clap. So this game is set in modern day China, and the players, so us, control the child of a martial arts school's Sifu, so their master, who seeks revenge on those responsible for their father's death. Every time you kind of go into a different setting, so there's 5 settings in total, and each one will have a final boss that was responsible for Sifu's or your father's death. And each of these landscapes vary from just kind of like the slum streets to nightclubs to art museums, the giant business towers, and then, of course, to just a sanctuary. So you're making your way from the bottom all the way to the top of kind of the martial arts ladder in this game. And I did kind of also to like the a little bit, I mean, they don't really go into it too much, but again, just the societal from the bottom to the top of the food chain kind of thing that you work your way up through. And every single time you die, you are resurrected by a magical talisman that ages you very slowly. So you start the game at age 20, and every single time you die, you gain one. So you gain again 1 year of life. So I think you're able to go up to. I never got to kind of like the end of the chain, but I believe between like 70 to 80, depending on the difficulty you're playing on. I assume is when you will again you'll get a game over screen. You'll have to restart the section or the level, so one of the 5 levels that you started off with. But every single time you age, you get access to more powerful attacks and also to bigger life bars. But every single time again you age a decade, so you go from 20 to 30, 30 to 40. Even though you get more health and more powerful attacks, you take more damage. So you have a bigger life bar, but of course, too, if you're not taking lots of hits, you're gonna lose your life bar pretty damn quickly. So I like how it balances that into it. And of course, too, by taking out enemies, doing little of the side quests that they have in the world, you're able to upgrade your character in a lot of ways, which will give you just more move sets, more combos that you can use, a lot more things that help with defense. There'll be a bunch of weapons that you can use. So of course, baseball bats, knives, swords, things like that that you'll find on the ground. So you can use those, and they're very, very useful to use. Of course, they do more damage, but of course, they'll break after a little bit of time, and some enemies will be a little more resistant to it. So, and of course, too, your weapons can't break. So some of these weapon upgrades too will also just give you more durability for those weapons. And there's one that I really, really liked where if something's on the ground, you can kick it at your enemy. So you can kick knives and swords and a whole bunch of things, chairs, some of the just environmental objects, like again, chairs, trash cans, things like that. You're able to kick at your opponent, stagger them for a little bit, and then go in. There's again just so many ways to play combat wise, but it's definitely worth it to get as much XP as you can because these little upgrades will very much help you out throughout your entire playing of the game. There's also too a bit of a challenge with this where there's certain upgrades that will lock after you get past a certain age. So kind of the bottom tier on most of these upgrade chains will kind of max out at age 29, and then when you get to age 30 and above, you're not able to get these unlocks anymore. And I found that those were some of the most helpful for me in the game. So I'm glad I kind of caught that and was able to put these on my character and take me out through the entire game. I did find too that I was able to get all the upgrades by the time I beat the main campaign, which was very, very nice and definitely helped me out in the final fights. There's also 2 little statues that you will find in and around the area. They're more, you definitely have to go searching for them, and there's a lot of ability within each level too. There'll be little hidden corridors, or there'll be a door that's locked, so you have to progress a little further in the level, find a key card, a key, something like that, and then go back to these sections and get in, and there'll be statues again that you get more abilities from. And some of these again can just give you a bigger life bar. Some of them will give you more stance. So basically what your stance is, it makes you able to block enemy attacks for longer and just again add to the durability of your character. But there's also some that will one that was actually kind of helpful in some ways, and I did use it 1 or 2 times, was there's one of these options where it allows your character to de-age by 5 years. So yeah, again, when your health bar is able to kind of be a little stronger and you de-age the 5 years, it's very, very nice. It was definitely very useful to have in the game. But yeah, it's so worth it. Do a lot of the extra exploring that the game presents to you because again, there's just more fights that are really, really fun to go through. And yeah, it was just awesome to have again just these abilities that really, really help you out. So it's so very much worth it to take the extra time and go and explore and find all of these in all of the 5 sections. Again, just every single upgrade that you possibly can get, because some of the enemies that you face, there is a wide variety of enemies that you face in this. I mean, of course, you can just break it down to you have your normal grunts, but then you have your heavier set enemies who do a ton of damage. They're not very quick, but if they grab you, you're losing like a quarter or more of your life bar, depending on what age you are. And I only got to, I think it was like age 42 is when I completed this game. So I feel like I did pretty decent for myself. And again, I was able to get through this decently quick my first playthrough around it. It's quicker and quicker each time I played it. So I kind of went down the new game plus routes. But yeah, it's friggin' awesome to just kind of go through these worlds and explore. And while the enemies too are very, very unique in their own, and some of them are really, really tough to fight, and of course the bosses are really tough to fight too. All of the boss fights are done extremely well, but all the level design is really, really cool and unique from one place to another too. I never found that any of the 5 landscapes were kind of copy and pasted, but just different aesthetics to it. They were very different and offered challenges in again just the landscapes that they had, where of course when you're fighting in the big tower, there's certain sections where you're on very narrow staircases and you get swarmed by enemies, so definitely takes away your maneuverability, and you have to again just find really creative ways to either backtrack to a place where you can fight them in a more open space if you're fine with that, or if you have a weapon, get wide swings in with your combat stances, or be really, really good at countering people and pushing them into other enemies so they're staggered, and then you can kind of take them out that way if you're in the close quarters. There's sections too where it's almost like platforming, where you have, I don't want to quite say platforming, but you're jumping down not staircases whatsoever. You basically have to jump and land in a sequence that takes you down to like lower levels, or else you'll fall to your death and not be able to progress because you're dead. So again, too, just kind of sometimes the very crowded slum streets, the nightclub where there's a ton of people and a ton of obstacles in your way that you have to fight around, which would be chairs, bar tables, things like that, that again are just in your way and lessen your mobility. But again, it makes it fun to kind of use these against your enemy too, if you have the time and space to do so. And the combat feels so damn smooth. Again, it was right on my alley playing games like Mortal Kombat and kind of recognizing the combos and using that in there. And of course, too, making sure your blocks and your parries are on points to, again, stagger enemies and do a lot of damage once you get it. So there's also a really cool ability, which is a focus, which you're not really able to use for all the bosses sometimes, or in certain places, but if you get close enough to an enemy, you hold down on the left trigger on the PlayStation 5 controller. PlayStation 5 is where I played this game on, but it basically slows down time a little bit, and there's a few different movesets that you can do where you can either sweep the leg of your opponents and then go down and get a couple punches in, or there's one where you punch them like basically right in the eye so it blinds them for a little bit, and then you can do big combos on them while they're staggered if you're moving quick and close enough. And yeah, a lot of those were absolutely awesome, really helpful against some of the bigger enemies, again the heavier set enemies, or the more martial arts skilled mini bosses that you fight throughout the games, and of course the bosses themselves, because the bosses are very, very well done. They all bring something completely unique to the table in terms of the weapons that they use and just their skill sets. The final boss is absolutely wicked fast. It's very tough to keep up with sometimes, and yeah, a lot of the other enemies just have weapons that are very unique and very cool. Some of them are just able to sweep absolutely wide. There's some with staffs that you have to learn how to duck, like duck to dodge high attacks, and then basically stance your player to be able to jump if he does lower attacks. Body shots, you have to jump back, things like that, that again just really shake up the gameplay and challenge you in a lot of ways. And they'll have these enemies come in while you're being swarmed by, again, other enemies as well. So it can be very, very tough to manage everything that's going on. And that's kind of one thing that I found with this game where sometimes the camera angles, you have to move the camera manually yourself. There's no lock-on system, which I would have find would have benefited this game a little bit in some ways because again, the camera would get stuck in the corners sometimes, and I kind of got used to it near the end of the game where I was able to manage it decently well, but there were a few times where I just found it was annoying and working against me in so many ways. But I never felt challenged really by the environments or anything. It was, again, just mostly the camera angles themselves. And another kind of gripe that I had with this game is just the fact that I was able to get through it really, really quickly. There was, again, a bit of a difficulty curve to cover through, but with my backgrounds, I was definitely able to jump into this and feel at home pretty quick, a lot quicker than I kind of see most people be able to get into it. I know some people had a lot of just really hard times getting into this game and getting into the combat. So I feel like the skill issue is a little bit high, but thankfully it was up my alley, something that felt right at home at, and something that felt great to be at home at because it was a ton of fun to play. And again, just the fighting was so smooth once you get everything down. But of course, too, the length was a little bit short, and I wish there was more to this game. There's not really much of a story, of course. It's just you go in and you beat the shit out of the people who killed your dad. And again, it's very, very simple, but effective enough. The combat's absolutely brutal. There's two different endings that you can go down, and the ways to unlock both of them I found were pretty damn cool. Bit of a karma based system on it, but there's a lot of ways that you can, again, just really level up your character and kind of fine tune the way that you want to play. Sometimes the game's going to force you to play a certain way that's kind of gone against everything you've known before. Think of almost like the Marauders in Doom Eternal. I found kind of similar mechanics that I loved those fights, and of course Doom Eternal, and of course in SIFU here. Absolutely awesome, very smooth gameplay, and something that's, again, I played a couple times already and absolutely loved every single second that I've gone through it. It's absolutely brutal. The takedowns are awesome, especially the ones with the knife are just so smooth and so much fun. It's visually pleasing to watch as it is to play. So really, with everything taken together, I'm gonna have to give SIFU an 8 out of 10. Highly recommend it if you have a PS5. It's definitely one of the best games that's come out on the console so far, and just something that I've had an absolute blast with. I'm going to be playing the campaign again because, again, it's just that good and easily one of the best combat games that's come out in the last little while. Great challenge, great, just again, gameplay, awesome scenes, epic moments, amazing soundtrack. So much in this game that I absolutely loved. But of course, if you've played SIFU, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. And if you like this review, definitely give it a thumbs up. And you can check out everything I'm doing on the channel. I'll link some playlists up top here for convenience sake on that point. Thank you for subscribing. Turn that little ringer on so you know when I upload new videos. If you want to check out everything I do live stream and Twitch-wise, link to that in the description of this video. And of course, my channel bio. And in both of those places, there's a link to the Media Mountain, which is my Discord where we talk about movies, video games, comic books, TV, pretty much everything that's awesome in this world. So if you can join that amazing community, I'll make it even more amazing than it is already. And yeah, just awesome, guys.
Sky blue eyes, I see a world behind them. No more time sinking into the silence.